always a joy for me to be in the Holy Land, to be in the places where Jesus was born, where he lived, where he ministered, where he died and rose again. Somehow being here brings home the drama of our salvation, brings the scriptures alive, and it's a particular delight to be here with people who are experiencing this place for the first time, to see how moving they find it.
Every day there are 7 highlights. It's just been an amazing trip, but if I had to pick 3 in the order in which they happened in history, rather than perhaps the order we did them, I think I would highlight the service, the Eucharist we had in the chapel for the shepherds of the fields, which was just a lovely way of bringing together a group of fellow Christians on a pilgrimage who didn't necessarily know each other. And it was in a very small space, but it was a wonderful feeling of togetherness, and I thought that was a lovely moment. I think the second I would highlight actually is around the Sea of Galilee. I mean, it was amazing to be able to have a swim in the sea before breakfast and then go on to the place where Christ appeared to his disciples after his resurrection. And I got a real feeling not of imagining what had happened, but really believing it had happened.
I didn't really know what I was going to expect or find when I got here. I was hoping for some real spiritual experiences. Some places were so full of crowds that and it was like a scrum that I felt bereft of any sort of spiritual experience like that. But there have been really wonderful moments, like this morning. The Eucharist celebrated at the shore of the Sea of Galilee, with the sparkly silver fish swimming on their sides just behind the altar, which just looked out with this very simple cross sitting on that huge altar stone.
What's really impressed me about being here is seeing the landscape and the nature of the places that Jesus walked and talked and spent time. So the Garden of Olives with its beautiful wildflowers and the ancient trees was incredibly special.
Gethsemane, or the Garden of Gethsemane, I found extremely moving. The readings, prayerful time, worshipping there, and sensing the place and the agony of Jesus and him being abandoned by everybody and about to face the crucifixion. It was a really very moving space.
The place that's most spoken to me is Capernaum. In Capernaum, when we first entered, we saw a sculpture of Jesus laid on a bench as a homeless person, and I'd always thought of him as a pilgrim, not as a homeless person. And if you'd ever been homeless, maybe you might have felt what I felt. As in 33 years ago, at the age of 17, I was homeless. And I found there in that moment something that I'd buried, something that I don't think of. I found that I was met in that moment of discomfort with Jesus, who also had discomfort. And I found peace in that moment at Capernaum.
Wow, we've seen such a lot. I think the main thing for me is the normality of the area. I can definitely picture Jesus in most of these places now. Actually, it feels very real, very real. This really came alive to me. The Sea of Galilee, I mean, you can only look out across the sea and you can almost see Jesus in the boat and walking on the waters.
Swimming in Galilee at sunrise was beautiful, and this morning it was a little bit choppier than yesterday morning. Not choppy, the waves were there, and it just reminded us of when Jesus walked on the water.
Really enjoyed when we were in the wilderness, where you could actually almost feel that this was a right place to be. That this was where Jesus would have walked, and it was a privilege to sort of sit there and just think.
One of the places that really took me by surprise was the wilderness. So barren, so expansive, and yet tiniest beautiful flowers of many colours just hidden among the stones, and that reminder that God gives us life in the darkest and driest of places.
We visited the children's orphanage because that was a good example, run by Palestinian Christians, a good example of Christ's mission as it's happening today in this area, and that was very moving.
The most special thing to me about this trip was visiting the Gil Al-Amal School for Boys in Bethany. Those boys in that school represent the consequences of conflict in the area, but also the hope.
One of the things that one's also able to do here is to enter a little bit into the experience of the living stones, those Christians who still occupy the land called holy, and to soak up and experience something of the sadness of this land that has been contested for so many generations, to feel the conflict between the Palestinian and Jewish communities, and it's really good to experience that. But I would say to anyone who's a bit worried about that aspect, don't be worried. Tourists don't suffer, it's the local people who suffer, and if we're able to come here and support them, that will be doing a great amount of good.